What's going on, YouTube? It's Tej, back again with another video, and today is the companion defensive position rankings. Yesterday we did offensive position rankings, so definitely go back, check that out. Today we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, and then tomorrow I will break out my top 100 finalized big board before the NFL draft. And just in case you're new around here, I'm going to be posting YouTube shorts through night one of the NFL draft, grading each and every pick, and through day 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. I'll be at a wedding and a rehearsal dinner the night before, but I'm still going to be giving some quick YouTube short thoughts on some of the big picks, like quarterbacks and stuff like that, whenever Rattler comes off the board, things like that. So anyways, let's waste no time. Let's jump into the defensive position rankings video, starting with interior defensive line. Murphy and Newton, to me, are both tier 1 guys. I like Newton and his play strength a little bit more, Murphy and his play strength a little bit more than Newton. Ultimately, I think Murphy's going to get back to 305. I know at the combine he was like 297, and people were like, oh, he's sub 300 pounds. I think he'll get back to 305, 308, what he was listed at Texas. He did that so he could run that 4.6 40 that he told Dane Brugler he wanted to run, which, by the way, 88th percentile, pretty good number, or 93rd percentile, that 4.68. But if that means he adds 10 pounds and he becomes 4.73, I'm fine with that. I think Murphy gives you a little bit more both worlds, short area quicks, explosiveness, and power. Newton, I don't think the power is going to be on his side, but man, just super explosive, getting into the chest of offensive line before they're even thinking they're ready. Tavondre Sweat's going to come in at 3, and I know the DWI. I said this in yesterday's video. I can't ding these guys because I've never talked to them, and because of that, I'm also not going to boost guys up the board because I think I know their character. I haven't talked to these guys, so I feel like that's unfair for me to weigh that into my evaluation. Sweat, I love the run-stopping ability for sure. He's the best nose tackle in this class, no doubt about it, even though Byron Murphy a lot of times would also play nose for Texas. But Sweat's got that prototypical nose build, and also I think a upside pass rusher. He showcased a lot of juice there, specifically on the bull rush. So, yeah, I don't know where he's going to get drafted because it's DWI right before he gets drafted, but nonetheless, I think there's a lot of talent in that body. Braden Fisk, short air explosiveness, short arm, so I don't think he'll be a great run defender, but I love the single gapping pass rushing upside that comes with Fisk. Chris Jenkins is the other side of the spectrum. Hasn't been a high level pass rusher in college, and I don't think there's really anything different that's going to change to the NFL level. But dude, at 295, pound for pound, one of the strongest dudes in this class, and an absolute tank as a run defender. Ruka, Brandon Dorless, I'll admit, I struggle with tweeners. Like, DBs, you give me a tweener who you can play a little slot, play a little safety, play a little corner. I love those. Give me versatility in the back end. For whatever reason, defensive line I struggle with, and I just want to put that out because that is a bias that should be known. So I kind of struggle with these guys, Rook and Brandon Dorless. Rook I almost think could be more edge that plays inside, Dorless more inside that can kick outside, for whatever that's worth. But love the length with Ruka Dorless really came along as a pass rusher. Don't think there's a whole lot of explosiveness, but love the hand usage and his ability to use power, specifically as a pass rusher. Mike Hall Jr. not going to give you much in the way of being a high-level run defender, but just winning one-on-ones right up the middle. The quickest way to a quarterback is from point A to point B through the interior. Mike Hall Jr. is going to get drafted to do just that. It's just, he's 280 pounds. He's not going to stop the run. Also coming off a year with just 1 sack, but I also think that's because teams know, hey, that guy that's really good at winning one-on-ones up the middle, maybe we just don't give him a whole lot of one-on-ones, so I think the production's going to be better at the next level. Then Leonard Taylor, Mason Smith, 2 guys with a whole lot of upside and athletic ability. Taylor, I think, was better 2 years ago playing 3-tech, so hopefully we just kind of have him shed some weight, get back to that. Mason Smith, man, has all the tools: arm length, hand size, play strength, athleticism. He's played 5-tech, he's played nose, he's played everywhere on the defensive line. And it's just, we haven't seen a whole lot of him because of an injury a year ago. And then this year should have been his breakout year, and it just wasn't, but I think he was still kind of recovering from that injury. Send him to San Francisco, please, for the love of God. Get him with that defensive line coach, and let's let magic happen. Mekhi Wingo just behind him, kind of probably more of a 3-tech and a little bit smaller. Don't think he'll be as good of a run defender potentially if Smith hits his ceiling, but short area quickness, that single gap shooter, kind of like Braden Fisk. I think there's a lot of upside there, so be fine with him going to San Francisco too, just because of the upside that's there. Dwayne Carter, Tyler Davis, a couple of nice run defenders here, and that's kind of where they slot in. So you got the upside guys that could be elite pass rushers, and then you got the high floor guys with Carter and Davis. I tend to do that with these tiers. I'll try to bundle a couple of high floor guys with a couple of high ceiling dudes as well. And Carter and Davis, they're kind of the high floor, probably early down run stoppers. McKinley Jackson got in the same boat, high floor run stopper. And then we get to a pretty big drop off in the interior defensive line class. I'll go Christian Boyd. Didn't get the combine invite for whatever reason, but good showing at the Shrine Bowl. I think with what I've been able to find of Northern Illinois, but I think there is good juice there, so I'm kind of surprised he didn't get the combine invite. But again, the Shrine Bowl showing kind of put him back on was really what put him initially on my radar, and I think there's enough there to take a shot on him day 3. Edge, I got Latu as tier 1, Turner as tier 1 as well. Latu, I think, higher floor right away. Turner, by year 3 of his rookie contract, could be a better player, but it is a risk. It's going to take the right coach and the right scheme to get that out of him. Look, Latu, he's either on your board or not. The way I see his, the medical retirement situation, he's either on your board or he's not, and he's on my board. And I just don't know how you can look at him and not say this dude is on a pass rush level of Chase Young, the Bosas, all those guys. He may not be as good of an athlete as those guys, which, honestly, I tell you, PFF Ultimate, those guys have been talking about. His in-game athleticism score is not terribly far off from some of those guys, and about the same as Dallas Turner. But anyways, even if you don't see him, and the arm length's not as good, and he's not as good of an athlete as Chase Young, the production speaks. And doing it in the Pac-12, I know there's not as good a tackle play, but this was a good year for the Pac-12, and he's done this, 2 years in a row, just being the best edge rusher in college football. I just have a hard time thinking you don't draft him and get 8 sacks at least his rookie year. And then, like I said, Turner, super athletic guy. I think he's made some headway. He's gained a little bit of mass, gained some inside counter moves. Still just need to continue that growth. Verse is kind of the blend of those two guys. A little bit better of an athlete, maybe, than Latu. Again, it depends on what you think of the in-game stuff versus on paper. But I think Verse's combine numbers were solid, and he's just more straight line linear. He's not going to have the bend or really even just the first step explosiveness of a Dallas Turner. It's just a different beast, but just speed to power, long arming guys, bull rush, that's going to be his thing. He's just going to, ball's going to be hiked and he's going right for the tackle's chest. And if you're looking for that power rusher, Versus as good as it gets in this class, really, in a lot of ways. Chop Robinson needs to be developed as a pass rusher. I think he plays the run pretty well, but super explosive athlete. These guys go in the first round, and I'm willing to take a shot on him. You look at how Odafe Owe kind of broke out this last year for Baltimore. I think we could be saying the same thing about Chop Robinson. We gave him 2 years to develop and grow as a pass rusher, and now he's a freak? Yeah, no wonder this guy went in the first round. And then Darius Robinson, total flexibility. Again, I could have put Ruka Rororo here because Robinson kind of same deal. I kind of view him as an edge first, IDL for later down situations. But I love the length. Pro day numbers were a lot better than the combine. In this last year at Missouri, where they played him more on the edge, you saw the production both as a run defender and as a pass rusher, 8.5 sacks. I think it's all kind of coming together for D-Rob. Chris Braswell, I'm a little higher on him than I think than most are, but he spent basically the majority of his early Alabama career getting in shape to play in a 3-4, to then have 1 year to do it, play it okay, and then not another year to get better and gain more reps and an off season before that. So I think if he gets drafted by a 3-4 team, they continue to build off the work Saban started, they're going to get a really solid player by year 2 and 3 of his rookie contract, where rookie year, he's probably, adjusting to the league, but by year 2, okay, well, now I've been in this body for 3 years, I've adjusted the NFL game speed, I'm starting to be productive. Year 3, I actually could see him being a really solid player and a guy that we look back on this class being like, wait, why did he fall? It just feels like people aren't anticipating that change in body type and how long it was going to take before he got to be a starter. Not to mention Alabama had a ton of dudes ahead of him. Jonah Ellis, just a high floor pass rusher. So where I think Braswell has a higher ceiling, Ellis that spin move's going to play. The spin move's going to play. And I think a twitchy athlete, short area stuff, kind of, in a lot of ways, kind of poor man's layout to Latu. Instead of just arm length being the concern, it's more like, is this guy 240? He kind of looks like he's 235, and can we have him on rundowns because of that? Seems like he's going to get moved. But dude, if he's your DPR, I'm fine with him being this year's BJ Ojulari or this guy's Nick Benito coming out of Oklahoma. Yeah, if he's a DPR, he's going to be a damn good one, and I'm fine with it. Marshawn Nealon, kind of the same bunch, right? Where the upside's there with Nealon versus the high floor DPR of Ellis, so you can move these guys around for sure. Focus more on the tiers than the individual numbers. But Nealon, yeah, I've been saying this. I'm more comfortable taking a shot on him in the third round. Some team might do it in the first, some team might do it in the second. I take my swing of the bat in the 70s, but I like the size, I like the bull rush. That's kind of the one move he's got, though, so work in progress. But for a class that's kind of light on 6'3", 6'4", 275, he's a really interesting guy in this group. Adisa Isaac can kind of win in a variety of ways. Don't know if he'll ever have any one trump card, but he'll be able to win sometimes with length. Sometimes he's bending underneath you. Sometimes it's the long arm. And then I think he played the run pretty well in college. I do wonder about his body. 254, it's just on that fringe of you might be big enough, but we'll see how it plays to the next level. But I think he played it well enough at Penn State that I'm not super concerned about his ability to play the run. And then Gabriel Murphy is just Latu light. Arms are going to be a concern, but NFL ready pass rush repertoire, dude. This guy's ready to go win at the next level. And if he's a DPR, he's going to be a damn good one as soon as day one. Xavier Thomas continues our tier 4 explosive athlete. Kind of always one, and I've been saying this for years with these Clemson defensive linemen. I'm really starting to think they have a developmental issue. I said that as someone who's not a college football coach, but these guys have so much talent. You're kind of waiting for them to break out, and they just never do. So maybe the next level, Xavier Thomas gets the right coach, right? And they get it out of him. But super twitchy combine numbers. So I'm willing to take a swing of the bat at him and see if I can get that out of him. Mo Kamara, another one of these DPR types, just not big enough, not long enough arms, just not going to play the run a whole lot, but just having him come off the edge. NASCAR packages let his explosiveness play there. And honestly, these shorter guys, I kind of have a bias to after watching Elvis Dumervil when he was with the Ravens, and even with his time with the Broncos, just getting underneath tackles. He's kind of this weird where the arm length checks out, but he's kind of short. But because of that, he kind of creates a lot of problems for tackles. I kind of dig the smaller edge rushers because of that they can kind of have a leg up in the leverage battle, and I think that could be an element to Mo Kamara's game, but I like the first step juice, and I like the ability to be a high-end DPR pretty soon. Braylon Trice, the combine numbers kind of confuse me, but I think just looking at his Washington, I would tell him, whatever you're playing at Washington, do that and continue to play with that motor. I think that motor is going to play. He's going to be a guy who wins with long arm, bull rush, speed to power only. Not going to be anything that wins with finesse, but if he does that with a high motor, he'll push a tackle into a quarterback's lap. He'll find a running back, he'll get enough production to be a solid rotational guy. Austin Booker looks better at Kansas, which, movement-wise than he did at the Combine, which tells me he's probably playing at like 230, 235, which is a little concerning, but love the arm length and I love the 6'6 frame, so just kind of an interesting body type I'd be willing to take a shot on. Jalix Hunt, like the safety from Cornell, converted to play edge, took a little bit for him to get that body in the right spot, and I think he's still kind of add mass, but really intriguing length, and that's this athletic DB with enough arm length to be an intriguing edge guy. I'd take a shot on him day 3. He's going to come with a lot of work. Probably won't be a productive player till year 3 at the earliest, but if I have a good defensive line coach, I'd be willing to take a swing of the bat. Peyton Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper make up my tier 1. Cooper is kind of the upside guy. Wilson's the high floor guy. Wilson does play a little tall, but and he's kind of more of a linear guy. Coverage, I think he played pretty well at NC State, but the NFL level might be a little different. But this guy just does like your run stopper, and as a blitzer, just crash downhill. Yeah, he's super explosive in the 4.43 40. Yeah, I want to use that guy as like a torpedo. Just like let him fly over the field and just let him run in a straight line. Cooper, more length, but I think it could be like the Tremaine Edmonds story here, where it's like, okay, he's not really ready to be a starter until year 3. So I kind of like him going to a spot where they can draft and stash him. Maybe a Philadelphia, maybe a Pittsburgh, where we don't need him to start year 1. Maybe year 2 he could be our guy. Junior Colson, I'm hearing a lot of leagues and a lot of teams have him as a linebacker 1, which is cool. That's fine. It's just I see it a little differently. Athletic limitations, I think, will keep him back just below these other 2 guys, but definitely is the best football instincts of any of the linebackers this class. Just truly knows the position. A little late coming to the game too, which is interesting. Quick anecdote. I used to umpire when I was in high school. It was just easy money, or relatively easy money. The guy who would teach the class was always saying he hated baseball players who became an umpire. And as a baseball player, I was like, what's that about? And he told me guys who play baseball think they know the rules. Guys who come in as outsiders and are just looking to, just do this as a side gig or whatever, don't have an understanding or previous knowledge, they're the better umpires because they call it as the book says it. And you almost kind of think, hey, these guys who kind of come to the sport a little late, you may think they're at a disadvantage, but at the same time, they're just going to do what they're told. They're going to keep the game simple. They're going to just focus on one task at a time. And because of that, it feels like Colson's really got the fundamentals down, so he hasn't overthought it, so I'm kind of intrigued by that, and feels like maybe that anecdote fits here. Edifon Olafosio, some good, some bad on his tape, but I love the athletic testing. It was a lot better than I thought it'd be, so kind of a moldable ball of clay. I want to get him in the room, and another draft and stash guy for sure. Cedric Gray, I've been pounding the table for. He was my, way too early off-ball linebacker 5, and I got him here in the final rankings. Love the coverage ability, and I think in the Shrine Bowl, he played the run a whole lot better than I anticipated, so if he can do a little bit more of that, he can get some early down work, and I think the coverage skill set will definitely play at the NFL level. Same thing with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who I'm going to have go to Tampa Bay in my final mock. His measurables are very similar to Vontae David. So if there's a place he could go where I have hope where Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can exceed kind of the short arms and smaller frame, lighter weight, all those little limitations, learning from Levante David would be the place, and Tampa Bay would be the landing spot where I think maybe he could kind of transcend that. His dad was awesome, don't get me wrong, but I think he's kind of a covered linebacker at best, given the size and the arm length limitations. Don't think he'll be a great run defender. Curtis Jacobs was the only guy over 240 pounds to run sub 4.6, so this is kind of I don't love the tape, but he's kind of the closest thing to a prototypical linebacker other than Colson and even a Edgerrin Cooper. So once we get to these later options, you're kind of light on who could fit that traditional linebacker mold that still has good enough athleticism. So multiple ball of clay, find enough athletes to where let's figure this out at the next level. Trevin Wallace, good athlete, and good athlete linebacker coming out of Kentucky. Don't let you think this is Jamin Davis. And let's be honest, like if you reframe the Jamin Davis pick as the Commanders took him in the 3rd round, it's a lot easier to sell that pick versus, oh yeah, they took him at like 28 overall or whatever it was in the 1st round. It's like, oh, okay, don't love that. Wallace is getting kind of day 3 love. So if you take him there, super athletic guy, it's worth taking a stab. And I think he's gotten better over the course of his Kentucky career. And then a couple linebackers from Notre Dame. Maris Leafo, I think a pretty solid understanding of coverage, got a good feel over the middle of the field. I do worry about him as a run defender at the next level. And then JT Bertrand has more traits to fit at the next level, but Leafo was definitely the more productive guy at Notre Dame, so I'm kind of scratching my head. This linebacker class gets really thin really quick. Cornerbacks, which I'll be pretty quick here because we got corner, slot. You'll see names in both. And there's going to be some names only in one and not in the other, and that will tell you where I think this guy's only a slot, or I think this guy's only a boundary corner. DeJean, I've had as my CB1 this whole process. I haven't been fazed about the injury. I haven't been phased about really any of it. I think he can play outside corner. I just love him as a slot because of his ability to be a run defender. I also think the kick return rules give him a boost in stock, but I'm not worried about the 3-cone. I'm just talking to my buddy, went to med school, so this is just me relying on my circle. Coming off an injury, it's a lot easier to be straight line fast than it is to recover 3-cone agility speed and get that back up to 100%. You're more likely to get to 100% going straight line than it is changing direction, so I think that's why he didn't run the 3-cone. I see nothing at the top of his routes that says this guy can't, move and steer his body and change directions quickly. I think where his feet are a little slow is at the jump. Like that very first, I think if anything, like the 20-yard shuttle maybe would have been what gave him some fits. But I think his flying 20 for the 40 was probably what made up that, 4.42 time. So, I'm not really worried about the change of direction skills. I think as long as he doesn't get beat right at the line of scrimmage, the change of direction stuff won't hurt him. Terran Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell also making up tier 1. Arnold, I love as a slot. Love the change of direction skills. To me, the best man coverage corner in this class. Great feel for the position, considering he's a redshirt sophomore, only 3 years of college experience. And he ended up kind of becoming the guy that teams wanted to pick on because they didn't want to throw against Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Arnold made him pay for that. Quinyon Mitchell, and again, he's number 3, but he's in tier 1, so trust me, this is not me like slandering Quinyon Mitchell. He's coming from a smaller school, but his showing at the Senior Bowl, he was easily one of the biggest winners. He was my number 2 winner out of the combine, just behind Jackson Powers Johnson, so top defensive winner for me. The ability to go show, hey, I can play man coverage is awesome. The combine testing was fantastic. Prototypical frame, both from a height and weight standpoint, and I love his feel in zone coverage. I think he won't be able to play as much off coverage in the NFL as he did at Toledo, but I think he showed he's got the goods to play man press at the Senior Bowl, so I have no concerns about Quinyon Mitchell. He's also got great ball skills, too, so I love all 3 of these top guys. He's the one that you won't see in the slot, though, so if you wanted to take the 2 guys who I prefer to have them play in the slot, DeJean and Arnold, and say, who's your top outside corner? Quinyon Mitchell is my answer. Kool-Aid McKinstry then comes in right behind him. 4.47 40 with a broken foot still. That kind of put that concern to bed. 3-year starter. When Nick Saban trusts you as a true freshman to play and go play man press, the hardest coverage that there is out there, that tells me you've got the goods. And I think the instincts are totally there. He's got all the traits down. And now he's put the athletic concerns to bed. Nate Wiggins, I could have flipped these guys, but the 173 and then 182 at the pro day is a little better, but the weight is just a little bit of a concern for me. And I'm just hoping he gets up to like 185, 190, even if that means he's running 4.35, 4.37 instead of 4.28. I'm fine with that. But I do love his ability to play man, play zone, play press, play off. Great motor, never gives up on a play. A Marion Hampton fumble against UNC, a perfect example of that. So I like Nate Wiggins. It's just the weight now. I have a little bit of a concern there. Max Melton comes in at number 6, also in tier 2. I love him. Once I saw the arm length measurement at the combine, I was like, oh god, this guy can play outside too. Okay, got to move him up the rankings. Like this guy, I thought he was slot only, but also the 40 time was great, and just the tenacity and the fight you see on tape. This guy's super physical for someone who's not the biggest corner, and I love that fight. He's got that mindset about him where it's like, if you beat him on a rep, you're not getting him the second. You're not getting him 2 times in a row. And I love corners with that mentality. So I love that fight in Melton. Love the inside out flex, and I love the athletic profile to go with it. TJ Tampa, the 40's a little disappointing, but I think especially in zone coverage with his length, he'll play. I even think in man coverage, like with his length and his size, it'll play. With those long arms, like maybe where he's losing some steps and some long speed, he'll get back into frame just because of how 6'2" plays and with his arm length. So I'm not too worried about TJ Tampa, but because it's not the 4.4s like I thought it was gonna be, somewhere in that 4.4 range, he's not in that tier 2 mix, so we do get a different tier here. Kyrie Jackson, really intrigued by 6'3" and his athletic profile. Big athletic corners are definitely my type. I think Tampa has a little bit more consistent tape than Jackson. I've also heard there's some character stuff here. Again, not baking that in there, but I do want to just make note of that. But I really think Jackson could be a really fun cover 3 corner, especially if you bring him to the line of scrimmage, let him press a little bit, or just use him as a man press corner. That could be a lot of fun. Renardo Green, just a sticky man coverage guy. I do worry. I just zone might be a little bit TBD, but I like the click and close speed. He's always in phase deep down the field, and prototypical size, good enough athleticism. Again, just sticky in man coverage. Want to see how it plays in zone. Kalen Carson, super physical, long speed concern, so might be a zone corner. Maybe he ends up making a move inside, but I don't really love the weight that he's currently at for that, so I don't know. But he plays bigger than what his current weight and kind of frame would suggest, and he's just going to bump and run with you the whole way. And he was kind of one of these guys where early in the process, I was like, yeah, he doesn't wow me, but he's good. And then now that this process is unfolded and I've gotten to see how this class shapes, and where I basically got an idea of where I want to fit him in. Early on in the process, again, I was like, he doesn't wow me, so I don't know where he fits. Now I have an understanding and a deeper knowledge of this class. I'm like, yeah, CB10, perfect. That's right where I wanted him to be. So I've kind of come around on Kalen Carson now that I know where he fits in the mix. Elijah Jones coming off a year with, 5 picks at Boston College. Great man coverage year. Kind of hoping he goes to Green Bay and reunite with Jeff Hafley there, the Packers' new DC. But man coverage skills, kind of like Renardo Green, TBD about zone coverage, but he's a good enough athlete. Prototypical size shouldn't be a concern. He just might need to be coached up a little bit there. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., other end of the spectrum here, not a great athlete, but just gets the position. Him and then one of the slots we'll talk about. Ball production is going to be a knock there, but it's just because they play the receiver, which makes me think that's a coaching decision. Hey, instead of playing the ball, let's play the receiver. And let's be honest, like, your run-of-the-mill college receiver who's not going to play on Sundays, if you nudge them, like if you throw off their body and their body control, their balance in general, that's going to be enough to throw them off. Like, that's going to be enough for them to drop it. Playing the ball, they might have enough grip strength and concentration to reel it in and bring it in. You nudge their body, you get them off course a little bit, bump them, you might be able to make that play there. So I almost think it's a coaching thing for Rakestraw and Andrew Phillips. But other than that, not a whole lot of major concerns for Rakestraw other than 4.51. It's not great at 5'11", but they're going to zone-heavy defense, trust his instincts. Maybe you play him in the slot. I think he's a good football player. Just draft a good football player. That's why I don't think he should be a first-round guy. More second, third-round range. Cam Hart, I'm a sucker for a guy that's that big and move that well, both in Mobile but also Indianapolis in the on-field drills. I think the movement skills are there, and it could be a kind of diverse coverage corner. On the other end of that is DJ James could be a man coverage guy. It's pretty much all Auburn asked him to do, and week in, week out, he had the hardest assignment in the hardest conference in college football, so I really respect that. And definitely some upside moments, definitely some moments where it's like, yep, you're going against the team's number one. That's going to happen. So, could see him at the NFL level in a man-heavy defense being a number 2. And yeah, it's like a step up in competition, but because he's not getting the team's number 1, he might end up becoming a solid number 2, and I don't hate that. And that's kind of what my hope is long term. That's kind of where I think his ceiling could be. And then Chris Abrams-Drain, the other Missouri corner, just, he's a little small, but he's got great instincts and plays really well for an outside corner. I think him and Rakestraw both just have the fundamentals down for the position. Not going to wow you athletically or with their frame or anything, but just know how to play college corner really, really well. And again, playing the receiver, and they're sticky, and they're with them stride for stride. So they have a lot more PBUs than they do interceptions, which, for some people, they want to see more ball production. They want to see them turn into interceptions. For me, I'm fine if the ball falls incomplete, But I will say I definitely give some extra bump, an extra boost to the guys who turn them into interceptions. Let's get on the slot rankings here. DeJean, Arnold, we already talked about them, but I love the ability for those guys to play inside. DeJean with his willingness to tackle and be physical. Arnold, 4.51, a little less than ideal, so play him on the inside, take advantage of his shiftiness, and his change direction skills would be awesome. Mikey Samerstill, love Mike Samerstill, kind of a Mike Hilton. I think I've been calling him poor man Devon Witherspoon, and just doing that from the inside, what Witherspoon was doing this year at Seattle. Sticky in man coverage, will put his nose in the middle of a play, wants to tackle, wants to be involved in the line of scrimmage, got a nose for the football too, gets his hand in the mix, just does a lot of the little things right, just a playmaking slot corner. That's my type right there. Javon Bullard, a lot of the same things, just great instincts playing for the run, keep this guy at the line of scrimmage and just watch him sniff it out. Love him as a run defender. And he'll take on tackles. He'll blow up tackles even at his frame. So yeah, just love that willingness and that proactive nature about him to go play the run, and also really nice in coverage. Showed that at Mobile too in one-on-ones, that he's sticky in coverage. Like him a lot in the slot. And then Kamari last year, I didn't have him in the outside corner just because, hey, look, I'm starting to. Sounds like it's pretty firm, 4.6 40, and there's just not a great track record of guys with 4.45 40, specifically at 6 foot or lower, that have had a great long career. So The 40 wasn't great, but the 3-cone was stellar. So let's get his change of direction, movement skills, and his natural coverage instincts on the inside, where we can hide the long speed concerns, but he has a great feel for how to be a sticky man coverage corner. Another guy that a top-tier college defense asked him to start as a true freshman. This time it was Kirby Smart in Georgia. And then with that change of direction skills, that plays over the middle of the field way more than the 40 well on the perimeter. Andrew Phillips, I talked about it. He plays the receiver more than he plays the ball, so I think that dings his college ball production, but just in phase. He is with a receiver, he's on their hip every step of the way, and he's got a nose for the football. It's just, you wish the ball production was a little better then. Dane Brugler's kind of mocked him to Roger McCreary. I think he's kind of McCreary with more twitch, honestly, laterally. So I like Andrew Phillips a ton. Jaron Jones, he's going to be a great man coverage slot. So like Dallas at 87, I'm looking at you if you're going to keep playing a lot of man coverage, or Green Bay in the third round at 88. Like if you're going to run man coverage looking for a nickel, Jaron Jones could be your guy. Zone's going to be a little TBD just because of Florida State, they run a lot of man coverage. Tyke Smith, kind of a poor man's Javon Bullard. I like his willingness to play the run. A little bit smaller, a little bit more slightly built. But at Senior Bowl, you see, hey, this guy should be a bona fide slot corner, no doubt about it. Twitchy and sticky in coverage. You're going to hear a lot of the same stuff. These guys just have that twitch, especially laterally, moving left and right. You have to defend the entire field when you're in the slot. You don't have a boundary next to you to take away one side that the receiver can win on. You got to be able to do it left and right. So you're starting to pick them on a theme. These like twitchy, lateral, side-to-side guys, they're my guys that I want in the slot. And real quick, I should mention, I'll have it pop up somewhere around here. If you want to know, I've been saying I value slot more than most. I think it's going to become the cornerstone position of an NFL secondary. And depending on where you stand on the coverage versus pass rush debate, the cornerstone of an NFL defense. I really stand by that. In the next 5 years, we're going to be talking about it. So check that video out if you haven't already. Deidrean Taylor Demerson, just such a twitchy, explosive player. He's a little small, but kind of has that poor man, honey badger nature about him. Just, man, wherever the football goes, he seems to be in the right spot at the right time. He can play over the top too, so it'll be in my safety rankings. But that type of chaos right there at the line of scrimmage, I'm really intrigued by. And then Chris Abenstream, again, his size might move him on the inside, but he played outside at Missouri, so I think he could do it in a zone-heavy defense. But if you get into a more man coverage-heavy defense, maybe you do move him inside. Let's round this out by talking about safeties. This is not a great safety class. So Tyler Newman, Jaden Hicks, they make up my safety one. I like Newman as a true over-the-top free safety. I know the combine testing wasn't special, but I think his feel for the position and feel for the game kind of makes up for that. Jaden Hicks can play free, like him more as a strong safety, crashing downhill, being a willing tackler, and just let this guy run downhill and just lay the wood on people. Javon Bullard, got him in here. We already talked about him, but if he's going to play safety, and I only put him in here because the safety class is so light on names. I was really scraping the barrel here. But if he becomes a strong safety at the next level, I'm fine with that. This last year, Georgia asked him to play free. I think he's a slot/strong safety. Cole Bishop, he's got experience playing both free and strong, so you can play him some split safety looks, could rotate him in either one of those roles. Really nice combine. A little bit short arms, that could be a concern, but everything else checks out for me. Cameron Kitchens, the 40, kind of disappointed, but man, I see so much natural instincts, and I think if you get him to the next level, take him away from that Miami defense where he's playing hero ball all the time, and you just say, hey, Cameron, this is your role. We need you to do this. Don't worry about everything else that's going on. You do this play will work, and you might find the ball. And you bring his playmaking ability and his natural instincts into just one specified role, and then maybe you can extend it a little bit more beyond that. I think taking him away from a spot where he has to play hero ball, eventually we're going to get into a situation where we see Cam Kitchens and kind of who he was supposed to be at the beginning of this process. So I still got hope for Cam Kitchens. They just need to make his world a little smaller. Adrian Taylor, Demerson, again, I like the playmaking ability out of the slot, but also over the top. If you're playing some cover 3 and just want to let this guy be a twitchy, rangy guy, I'm totally here for that. Sione Vaki, only 2 years of college experience. I think he would have gotten better with a third and a fourth, but he was on mission during his time at BYU. Then transferred to Utah, and I think as a downhill crashing safety, I like him a ton in that role. And also could play some running back for you. I'm interested by that. Kalen Bullock scares me off of this tackling. If you couldn't do it in college, why would I expect you to get better at it at the NFL level? Yeah, coaching will be better, but also you go from tackling Marshawn Lloyd every day in practice to, the Ravens and Derrick Henry are running at me. Like, it's just a different beast the next level too. So if you haven't done it yet, I don't think it's going to ever come, but he does have a ton of range and a lot of playmaking instincts. So as a free safety, it makes a lot of sense. I just think when push comes to shove, he's just not going to be a great tackler, and he's going to become a liability really as a tackler. Tyke Smith here at safety. To me, he's a slot. I don't really like him at safety, to be honest with you. So maybe he's a box safety, but to me, he's a slot. And then Malik Mustafa, Richmond transfer. I was high on Kobe Turner, so I got to get another Richmond transfer in here. Just does a lot of the little things right. Not a great athlete, kind of small, but always in the right place at the right time. So he's one of those guys where if you're playing a lot of zone, a lot of quarters, he's not going to be out of position, so therefore you're not going to give up big plays. And he'll do the little stuff right, like he'll wrap up and tackle. So again, no chunk plays. That's kind of what you're taking this guy on, day 3 to be your third safety. And if you're playing quarters, then it's like, okay, he's in there. Don't screw this up. Don't give up a 60-yard bomb. And he's going to do that. And that's basically what he's done throughout his college career. And and he's actually Nick Tice's #1 safety. I'm not quite there with Mustafa, but I'm glad to hear someone is with Malik Mustafa. But guys, that's going to do it for my updated defensive position rankings. Tell me what you think about the tiers, who's too high, who's too low. This is as subjective a part of the process that there is, so I'm not going to knock your rankings. Let me see them down below. Please be respectful towards mine. This is, again, just what we see with our eyes. Everyone kind of sees it differently. We can look at the same tape and have a different opinion. That's totally fine. Again, I'm not going to knock you. Please don't be too overly disrespectful towards mine. But let me see your rankings, or at least who do you think like the tier 1 at each position is. I'd love to see that down below in the comment section. Leave those thoughts down in the comment section. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be here for our draft day coverage. Again, YouTube Short giving a grade for each and every first-round pick of Thursday night's first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. But until then, my name is Tej. We are signing off.